Hey guys, Justin here, and boy do I love cars. I love cars and engines and four wheels. I love all those things. So today we're going to go over all of the cars that were planned to be in iRacing at some point but slipped through the cracks and were scrapped altogether. At number 7 we have the Aston Martin Vantage GT3. Aston Martin already has two cars in iRacing, their GT1 and their GT4. But along with those two cars, there were two other cars scanned by iRacing in that batch of Aston Martin cars, but the only one that we know for sure is the GT3. Its V12 engine had a power output of 600 horsepower and it competed in the likes of the Nürburgring 24 Hours, the Dubai 24 Hours, Britcar, British GT, among other series. This car was licensed by iRacing in 2012 and then scanned sometime between then and 2014. In 2015 was the last update that we got when they said the GT1 was going to be scanned first and then the GT3 after that. And while the GT1 was scanned and did arrive in the service, the GT3 was never to be seen. This information comes from posts from iRacing staff member Tony Gardner on the iRacing forums, along with about 90% of the other information that I'm going to present in this video. And in this same post, he also indicated that they have licenses for other Aston Martin cars, but it seems like those never came into fruition as well. Some people theorize that it may be some prototype cars. So why hasn't iRacing ever added the 2012 Aston Martin Vantage GT3? Well, I think it's because there has always been a plethora of GT3 cars to drive on the service, and the Aston Martin was probably just the last one on the priority list until eventually it became outdated, as this is about 12 years old at this point. So this is the part of the video where I usually make a funny haha joke that makes you go at best, but instead of that, I want to point out that we are getting super close to 10,000 subscribers on this channel, and when that happens, I'm going to be giving away these items right here, so if you want to see that come quicker, please subscribe to the channel. Number 6 and number 5 I'm going to group together because they were going to achieve the same purpose, and that would be the 2012 BMW 1 Series NGTC as well as the Honda Civic NGTC. First, the BMW 125i M Sport was first built in around 2013 for the British Touring Car Championship by West Surrey Racing as they switched to the NGTC spec to replace their S2000 BMW 320si. This car and that team saw some success in 2013, gathering 5 wins, 11 podiums, and finishing 3rd in the championship. The Honda Civic NGTC entry saw even more success in the 2013 BTCC season, as the factory-backed car won both the Individual Drivers' Championship and the Teamed Constructors' Championship, along with 10 races that season. Both these manufacturers made a deal with iRacing in 2012 to have these cars scanned at some point, but the partnership with the BTCC itself and the data did not start coming in until 2014, until at some point iRacing finally admitted that getting the data was very difficult and eventually they abandoned the idea altogether. iRacing has said multiple times how much they value getting BTCC cars into the service, but it seems like that the series itself wouldn't play ball with iRacing enough for them to get what they needed. Ultimately, in June of 2015, iRacing admitted that there were no future plans to build any BMWs, and that would include the 2012 era BMW 1 Series. Therefore ruling out the BMW BTCC entry, along with probably the Honda Civic, as we have not heard anything from it since 2014. So why doesn't iRacing include these cars in the race? Well, it sounds like not for a lack of trying, but unfortunately they weren't able to get the data with what they needed, and now these days BTCC is partnered up with a lovely company called Motorsports Games, so I doubt we'll see those cars around anytime soon. And number 4 is the Roof Ctr3. This beast of a production car had a 3.7 liter twin turbocharged flat 6 engine and produced a maximum output of 691 horsepower, with its Club Sport variation producing even more. Many racing gamers from the late 2000s era may recognize this car as it was used as a sort of a Porsche stand-in, as Porsche had an exclusive licensing agreement with EA at the time. Probably most notably you'd remember this from Gran Turismo 7, but this car was also on its way to iRacing as iRacing scanned multiple cars from Roof around 2012. iRacing would end up releasing the Roof RT12R later that year, and everyone thought that that was all we were going to get. But then in another forum post, Tony Gardner just had to tease us and say that they scanned another really cool car, the Roof Ctr3. But added the caveat, Who knows when and if we will ever build it, and if the test of time has told us anything is that they are not going to build it. So should iRacing release the Roof Ctr3? I think they should. I think this car holds up as something that could be really fun to mess around with the service and add a whole new type of power to production car type series. Since we don't have similar cars like the Porsche 987 or 997 in the game, why don't we start with the data that we already have? After a year and a half, I've finally been exposed. I'm not a car guy. I know, insert the SpongeBob meme right here, very funny. I already made it myself, you can't make it now, and you can't hurt me anymore. So, you know what, you can't hurt me anymore. I'm still gonna continue this video. At number 3 is the GoKart. What can you say about a GoKart? It's a GoKart. There were at least 2 times over the past decade where iRacing indicated that they were looking into adding go-karts into the service. The first time was in 2013 where they showed an image of the cartwheel, which showed that the go-kart must have already been pretty far in development. Whereas in 2017, iRacing did indicate that the go-kart was in development and was in alpha, but it would require much more research to complete, and there are multiple reasons for this. Tony Gardner once again wrote in a now deleted thread that they experimented with kart on alpha, but determined it did not fit well with a couple of our current models and systems, so karting would require more research and development. Maybe someday. There were actually leaked videos and pictures from a test session, but I can't find them anymore, they got lost to time. One of the things that they were alluding to that makes go-karting so hard to scan and model in a simulator is how much leaning has to do with how the car reacts in real life. So karting sims either have to try to model that without having the user control the leaning, or have a whole different control system to control user leaning, which is also really weird. So why doesn't iRacing add go-karts into the game? Well, because at the end of the day, it is hard to make a karting simulator. But if they were able to make it work eventually, there are a lot of weird little tracks that would work well with go-karts, along with other tracks that iRacing could now go scan. I gotta win back the social proof for my viewers after saying I'm not a car guy, so how am I going to do that with go-karts? Yes, actually, I am the lap record holder of the Portland, Oregon K1 speed for approximately 18 hours, but how many hours are you the lap record holder at the Portland, Oregon K1 speed? You gotta believe everything I'm saying now. At number 2, we have the BMW E92 M3 GT2. Wait, no, crap, that's my credit card number. This was another one of those cars that was nixed in 2015 when iRacing said that there were no new BMWs planned. In real life, this car competed in 2010 with the 24 hours of Nürburgring, the 24 hours of Spa, and the 1,000 kilometers of Zhuhai. They would have won all 3 of these events except for the 24 hours of Spa. They were forced to retire with 30 minutes left due to a suspension failure. This car also saw success in America with Rahal Letterman Racing going 1-2 in the 12 hours of Sebring. After just a couple years of competition, this model was succeeded by the BMW Z4 GTE in 2013. In iRacing, this car was officially announced on December 22, 2012, just 2 days after their deal with BMW was announced. In the years since, we have seen multiple GT3s released, the GT4, and even this car's successor, the GTE, which probably all but confirms that this car will never be put into iRacing. So why doesn't iRacing add this car into the service? Well, back then, I believe it was because they didn't want to oversaturate their series list with multiple similar type of cars that would have to create new classes and new series for, and these days the car is just obsolete. At number 1 is the Honda HSV010. Unlike typical Super GT cars, this car is not based on any production vehicle and boasts a 3.4-liter V8 engine. In 2010, this car won both the Teams Championship and the Drivers' Championship for Super GT. And by 2014, this car was obsoleted by the Honda NSX Concept GT. On the iRacing things, we only have quotes from iRacing employees around 2013, so it gets a little bit hearsay. But in August of 2013, iRacing was quoted as saying that it was literally impossible to get data for this car, even though they had a license for it. And then in December of 2013, they finally admitted that the car will likely never be built. The only trace left of the Honda HSV010 is from an iRacing press release in 2012 where they said how excited they were to have this car in the game and the Super GT series as a series in iRacing. And that is one that I really would have personally liked to see, but it is understandable if iRacing could not get the data that they needed, that it was impossible for them to build this car to their standards. So should iRacing add this car into the service? Well, unfortunately, like many cars on this list, it has just been obsoleted by now, but I would like to see some sort of Super GT car enter the service eventually. So while there were projects with a lot of promise, there were just some cars that seemed to get scanned almost as an afterthought and then slip through the cracks. But this history is enough to turn any guy into a car guy, am I right? Ah, who am I kidding? I just want to go fast and turn left.